Hi, my name is Olivia.
I'm Abby.
And welcome back to Quantum Crosstalk, the series where we sit down with influential members of the quantum community and talk to them about the latest happenings in quantum.
Today we're speaking with Derek Wang, a researcher at IBM Quantum, and we're going to be talking all about how to use Qiskit for research.
And without further ado, here's our interview with Derek. Derek, welcome to Crosstalk. Thank you for coming into the studio and joining us and answering some of our questions today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. To get us started, would you mind telling us a little bit about your background and how do you use Qiskit in your research?
Sure, yeah. I'm a research scientist here at IBM Quantum, coming up on 2 years. And my goal from the very beginning has been to push the quantum computers that we have today to its very limits, look at the biggest scale problems, the deepest circuits that we can, and see how they can be useful for some other scientific application. And the reason I'm interested in this is because before IBM Quantum, I was doing my PhD in applied physics and more specifically computational physics. And I did a lot of these calculations on big classical clusters in chemistry and materials that were often using thousands of nodes at a time, and still we were unable to solve some of the problems that we were interested in. So towards the end of my PhD, I started thinking more about different computational approaches, and quantum computing came up, of course, as IBM Quantum started putting its devices on the cloud, and so that's how I got started in this line of research.
Oh, that's really cool. I didn't know that.
So did you always start from, as a coder, have you always been coding, or is it more like when you got to a certain point you needed to start coding in order to tackle the problems you wanted to work on?
I think anyone who comes from like a computational science programming background, they'll describe themselves as a scientific programmer. And often I think that is just a really nice way of saying that you just code to get the job done.
Right, ugly code.
It's ugly code. And
yeah.
The code isn't really usable by other people. It's really not interpretable. Sometimes it's hardly reproducible. And so when I started using Qiskit actually is when I started thinking more about making better code, because it already came from a really structured place and the APIs were referenceable. And so then it kind of inspired me to think about, how can I make my computational workflows better for other people to use as well.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any research that you can tell us a little bit about and how you're using Qiskit in it?
Sure. We have put out a few papers in the past few, maybe 6 or 7 months, all of which go towards the 100-qubit scale and use up to thousands of 2-qubit gates, for example. We have one in many-body physics, another showing how we can use machine learning to do quantum error mitigation, and a third in this scale that's about using dynamic circuits, or circuits where you use mid-circuit measurements and feed that information forward within the same circuit.
So, just going off of that, how does it feel to have been in the position you were in graduate school, I guess, where you were one of these people who had a computational problem that quantum computing is trying to help, to being the actual person who's trying to solve that problem with the quantum computers? Was it a weird transition?
It definitely is a weird transition, because a lot of what wasn't a problem before is now a problem, and what wasn't a problem, vice versa.
Yeah.
For example, with a classical computer, you never worry about the bits just not working, right? You never worry about the whole thing just crashing or randomly getting wrong results because the device wasn't calibrated that day. Mm-hmm. But then, on the other hand, you have to think very hard about how your problems scale on a classical computer. You'll find that you hit size limits a lot more quickly. Just when you naively do some problem, you run into some sort of exponential scaling. Whereas on the quantum computer, problems map onto it a lot more naturally and efficiently in a way that is more intuitive, I think, with the way you learn physics from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm. So I guess you have to be quite intentional with the way that you structure your research problem in such a way that it will kind of map to a quantum device,
yes,
right?
Exactly. And after a while, you get a sense for what kind of algorithms in general work well on a quantum device versus a classical one. And so while we're in this era of quantum devices becoming more powerful, but not necessarily generically more powerful than classical computers, you do have to be very smart about the kind of problems you look at.
Got it.
And so you mentioned, kind of how the field is progressing in general, and you're doing harder and harder problems, going more like utility scale things. I guess that's made life as a researcher, more challenging but also more exciting, I guess? And has Qiskit been able to, I guess, like keep up with the rate at which you're moving forward in research?
Yeah. I mean, I feel very fortunate because when I came into quantum computing, Qiskit was definitely built by researchers for researchers. More structured than the average research code, but still relatively hacked together, right? And performance and compatibility between different modules wasn't necessarily thought about as much. And that was okay, because in this research stage, we were all just trying to figure out the way to do quantum computing research, the important lines, kind of what to optimize for and what not to. And as I've gotten deeper into the field and then thought about problems from different levels of abstraction, Qiskit has kind of grown in that way as well. So it used to be very important, for example, to think about how exactly you were submitting your job to the backend. The order of the circuits, you wanted to optimize those things, and that took a lot of effort. And then over the past couple of years, Qiskit has kind of abstracted away that process and made it so that it just handles it on its own, allowing you to think more about the problem at hand rather than these details.
Cool. So speaking of the software evolving, as you know, we recently launched Qiskit 1.0. Woo! What new features in Qiskit 1.0 do you think are going to be particularly exciting for computational scientists?
Yeah. There's a lot. One is the overall performance, right? There's these plots that are coming out that's looking like for example, transpilation rate, optimization level 3 will be a lot more efficient. That used to be a huge pain, and we used to offload some of those calculations onto clusters, right? Or have to spend a lot of time optimizing these circuits by hand, basically, to make them work. So to have that be able to be done faster is really nice.
I heard that there's also a lot of work went into updating the pass managers and generally making that easier to use and more powerful.
Yeah, because before the pass managers they had these built-in ones that were more of a black box, and after a while you got an intuition for what they did. And you could read the documentation, but it didn't necessarily explain step by step what was happening. But now the documentation is clear, and you can make your own as well. And so, for example, we're doing this Coding with Qiskit series later on.
Time for a shameless plug.
Yes, we're doing this Coding with Qiskit 1.0 series where we're trying to highlight this feature. And as for one of those episodes, we're actually building our own stage pass manager, right? And for a specific problem that the average Qiskit person might not care about, but it's very important for our research. And so now we can do it in a way that is efficient, reproducible, and documentable.
Awesome. So you sort of spilled the beans a little bit, but for those who might not know, we are launching a new Coding with Qiskit series imminently on Qiskit 1.0, and we're sort of hard launching Derek on our channel today because Derek is going to be the host of this new series. Yeah. Thank you, Derek. Can you give us and give the audience like a little bit of a preview on some of the topics that you're going to be covering in the series?
Yeah. So with Coding with Qiskit 1.0, it is a revamp of the series that we've done before. But Coding with Qiskit 1.0 has so many new updates that there are just a lot of different things we want to highlight.
Yeah.
There are some more mechanical, let's say, about how to install it differently, how different packages might have been spun out or spun in, and so how do you manage those environments with Qiskit 1.0. But we're also going to be highlighting several of its core features, like the ability to do things at the 100 qubit scale a lot more efficiently, like the ability to submit jobs and through the primitives that are more customized and useful for your workflows through the sampler and estimator updated versions. And another one is, for example, having a lot more classical logic capabilities so that you can design dynamic circuits, and we'll be showing off some of the capabilities there on the actual quantum hardware.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm super excited for this series. Yeah. But before we move on, you have a little bit of a personal connection with Coding with Qiskit, actually. And that was another reason we wanted Derek to host this new series. Do you want to talk about that for just a minute?
Yeah, sure. So the way I got into quantum computing actually was towards the end of graduate school. I was looking for something to do with my computational skills, and I got interested in quantum computing, like I mentioned before. And I found that the easiest way to onboard at the time was through Qiskit, going through the textbooks, going through the YouTube material, and actually watching Coding with Qiskit with Abe at the time, and the series later on with Jinsung. So for me, it's really an honor to be able to host this thing and to hopefully get other computational scientists into quantum computing.
I love that we've come full circle.
Story. Exactly. Yeah. So that maybe touches on a topic that I'm interested in talking about, which is, Qiskit for a while has been known as a really essential tool for quantum education, but I think not so many people know how powerful of a tool it actually is for research itself.
Yeah.
So maybe you could talk to us about what sort of research is Qiskit best suited for?
Yeah. Well, when you're doing research, a lot of the times you start thinking from the circuit level, right? And you would need to do a lot of extensive testing at this circuit level to make sure that what you've mapped is logically correct and that it'll work well on the devices. And so Qiskit has a lot of low-level functionality that's actually really useful for this as well. Basic stuff like quantum information, state fidelities, and just like handling these things that you would normally do maybe if you were in graduate school in MATLAB on your own. But now that you can do it all in the same package, the same workflow, it's really straightforward to take an idea that you have, convert it into a circuit, and then run it on a device very soon after. There's very little of this translation overhead going from different layers of abstraction.
I always feel like the quantum info module in Qiskit is maybe one of the underappreciated modules in Qiskit. I think a lot of people, they know of the quantum circuit object and the construction of these nice looking circuits, but I think the quantum info module actually has a lot of more powerful things that you can do with it, right? And you can almost jump directly from the maths to code in a way that's kind of seamless.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can, when you do a pen and paper quantum computing calculation or just quantum mechanical calculation, you do it in the form of unitary matrices, right? And so in Qiskit, you can go from these kind of unitary matrix type calculations and convert it into quantum circuit objects that then get passed along through the rest of the stack pretty straightforwardly.
Yeah.
So it's something I actually use quite often.
And I bet that's super helpful for people coming into the field who want to make use of these tools, but maybe they didn't take a quantum mechanics course and maybe they don't care to learn how to do it with pen and paper. I mean, it's sort of unnecessary at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
I always try to avoid doing maths whenever I can, so if I have code that can do it for me, that's ideal. Okay, is there anything that we haven't touched on?
The only thing that I'm still wondering about is, just because I'm so fascinated by Derek's background, could you give people who are coming from the computational science background some advice? How would you recommend they build up their intuition like you have for how to best program circuits at the utility level?
I think there's a few things, right? One is you have to learn the foundations. And so that comes with, for example, going through the Qiskit textbook, watching the new series by John Watrous, going through textbooks on your own. So you have to build up this basic language. But for people who are more practicing computational physicists and computational scientists, where learning the quantum mechanical part is probably actually not so bad. It's a lot of just linear algebra. I think the next step that makes sense is to try to convert what you're already working on into a quantum computationally languaged problem, right? So at the time, for example, I was working on problems in looking at molecules in cavities, the problem of fermions interacting with bosons in the plainest physics language. And I noticed that there wasn't so much that had been done on quantum hardware at the time. So when I was learning quantum computing, the first thing I did was, well, what if I try to convert this problem into something that could be run on a device? And I didn't do it very well, I think, because I didn't know so much about quantum computing at the time, but it got me very familiar with a lot of the language very quickly. I got a sense for what kind of problems translated well or mostly did not translate well, and that helped me a lot as I then figured out actual new problems to do in quantum computing.
Cool.
I guess you have to start somewhere, right? And the first time you try something, it's not necessarily always going to go well, but you probably learn a lot through the process.
You just have to not be afraid.
Yes.
And I think the sense I get is that this is so new and there is, so much information out there that maybe some computational scientists find it very intimidating.
Yeah.
What advice would you give somebody who says, I find this new computational method super interesting, but I'm really intimidated. I don't know where to start.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that if you're intimidated, it's because it's very new, but the people who are making the biggest impact today in quantum computing are people who are very new, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot
It's
of
a very
the
new field, actually. You know,
it's a very
only,
new
like,
field.
Right, like you could only be behind by like 6 years at the most, which in
Yeah.
most fields, not that big a deal.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, the field is 40 years old, but
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
just talking about
the-
the part where you can program.
the programmable part, yeah.
Yeah. But the field is 40 years old. A lot of the algorithms came out 20 years ago, but those algorithms we can't really do today. And so there's actually this whole field that is probably about 5-10 years old of what can we do on these devices that we do have today.
Right.
And a lot of those contributions in this newish field, let's say, have been by people who came from outside the quantum computing world. They are not necessarily theoretical quantum information algorithms designers, but they are chemists, or they are like condensed matter physicists, or they came from a device background even, right? And those are the people who are making contributions today. And so I would say to people who are afraid is that new background is actually something that is an advantage in today's world.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's a great note to end on. I think that was very optimistic and very true. Thank you so much for talking with us and coming in, Derek.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, I thought that was a really great conversation we had with Derek.
Yeah, it was awesome. I really loved that story he was telling us about how he got started with Qiskit through watching Coding with Qiskit, and now he's come back to host Coding with Qiskit.
Yep, he's really gone full circle with that one.
And that actually got us thinking, if any of you in the audience have a cool story about how you got started with Qiskit, we would love to hear it, so drop us a comment below.
And speaking of community engagement, quickly before we sign off, we are going to go to Alea for an update on upcoming events.
Thanks, Olivia and Abby. My name's Alea, and welcome to the Qiskit event forecast. Spring is upon us, and you know what that means? World Quantum Day is soon. This year, World Quantum Day is on Sunday, April 14th, and of course, we want to hear about your plans. Let us know in the comments below. Now on to the IBM Quantum events. You think you know Qiskit? Here's your chance to show what you've got. This May, get ready for the 2024 IBM Quantum Challenge, an exciting ride through the latest of Qiskit 1.0 and Qiskit Runtime. The challenge is exactly that, a challenge. We'll provide you with a series of notebooks that ask you to solve problems using Qiskit. The first is easy, but they will get progressively harder. Whether you're a seasoned quantum coder or just starting to dip your toes in, there's something for everyone to learn, explore, and to master. The challenge will run for about a week near the end of May. Make sure you join the challenge to earn a Credly badge and add some quantum flair to your coding repertoire. Keep an eye out on our LinkedIn and blog for registration details. We'll see you at the challenge. Now, in honor of Women's History Month, I am excited to mention our Quantum Women Invited talk series. It's a series of public webinars in which we highlight accomplished women in the industry to inspire the next generation of quantum researchers and developers. Stay tuned for the talk announcements on our socials. But in the meantime, for more information about the series, along with recordings from past talks, you can visit the QWomen link in the description box below. I'm happy to report that IBM is participating in QRise, an event organized by our friends at Quantum Coalition. This is an online event focused on quantum research and industry skills. Different industry partners, including IBM, have provided real research prompts for students to try in groups over 6 weeks. Our topic is about optimizing dynamic circuits. Now, even though the event has already begun, you should still check out the 6 different research prompts on their website, quantumcoalition.io. It's a great way to expand your knowledge and flex your skills. YQuantum is the Yale Quantum Institute's inaugural quantum computing hackathon on April 13th through the 14th. It's uniting industry leaders and talented students for over 24 hours. It aims to further the boundary of what quantum computers can do and pioneer quantum solutions in relevant, tangible use cases. We're calling all those who are interested to apply. Undergraduate and graduate students are welcome. You can visit the YQuantum link below to register. Sounds like a great way to spend your World Quantum Day. Now, on to where you could find IBM Quantum in real life. IBM and a few quantum faces will be exhibiting at the 50th Annual National Society of Black Engineers Convention in Atlanta, Georgia. But I'm really excited to announce that during the conference, the IBM HBCU Quantum Center is having its first workshop for quantum engineering called Building Community for a Diverse Advanced Computing Technologies Workforce on March 22nd and 23rd. This workshop will introduce quantum information science and engineering, highlighting funding opportunities for both students and faculty, and it'll give scholars an opportunity to present their research. For more information on how to register, visit the IBM HBCU Quantum Center link below. You can also visit an IBM Quantum booth at the USC Industry Days on April 11th through the 12th. The University of Southern California is hosting this dynamic two-day event that invites undergraduates and graduate students to engage with those at the forefront of physical and life sciences. Students will network with seasoned professionals, attend panel discussions with experts, and discover what it takes to thrive in today's competitive landscape. It's an exciting initiative to be a part of, and we hope to see you there. In San Sebastian, Spain, on May 7th through the 10th, the QuantuMatter International Conference will gather the various communities engaged in the science and technologies of quantum information and quantum matter. They'll be fostering the incubation of new ideas and collaborations at the forefront of quantum technologies. The IBM Quantum team will contribute several talks, including a special keynote by Jay Gambetta, our VP of Quantum. Follow the QuantuMatter link in the description below. And that's it for me. If you want your event featured on our next roundup, find me on our Qiskit Slack and let me know. Now back to Olivia and Abby.
Thanks so much, Alea, for that exciting update. And once again, thank you to Derek for coming to chat with us today. And lastly, thanks to all of you folks for tuning in to watch this show.
And really quickly, we have one last favor to ask you. If there is anyone that you would like us to interview and speak with, or something that you are desperately wanting to hear about, let us know in the comments. And we'll see you next time.